Welcome to the Christian Atheist, where faith and reason fuse in the incarnation. Episode number 127, Chatterview with Jennifer Galardi.
Part 3.
You're amazingly perceptive.
Yeah.
You really, and I don't say that lightly. I'm a professor. I've seen a lot of people go through my classrooms. You pick up on things without even, I would say,
being taught.
I would say, going back and grounding all these things in Hegel, you're seeing these symptoms all around you. And that's what drove me into philosophy. It's like I see the world around me. I want to understand why the world is what it is. Yeah. And that's been my life journey as a philosopher.
Well, and now I'm thinking, shoot, I can't seem to get the job I want with my master's. Maybe I'll go get like a doctorate in philosophy. I was just looking up political philosophy. I was looking to get my master's or my PhD in political philosophy. And then I'm like, because I really do think I want to teach. But I look at all the jobs. I looked at Penn State's website. I looked at Bucknell's website. I'm like, you've got to be kidding. I am not going to teach DEI. I'm going to teach philosophy. If I want to teach, I want to teach something.
Jordan Peterson is actually looking for instructors right now.
Yeah.
He has the Peterson Academy.
I know. I didn't think about that, but I do know
I thought about it too, but I'm happy doing what I'm doing right now with my wife. So.
Yeah. So we'll see. I'm trying to weasel my way into his they're doing a conference. You know, they kind of started a competitive organization to compete with the WEF.
Oh, okay. I didn't know that.
And they're having their first
World Economic Forum.
World Economic Forum. They're having their first gathering in London, I believe, at the end of this month. Or the end of November, technically. Next month.
And were you able to get in?
I don't know. I know I haven't. The thought hit me yesterday, and it's like, now that I'm actually working for a real newspaper, maybe I could somehow get it. And I know enough people going. Yeah. I mean, I could just buy a ticket too, which would be a lot of money. But I don't know. We'll see. I do have this kind of dream of working in that circle somehow. Of those people. I mean, that's a huge one, to be even in that sphere. But I just think the work he's doing is so important, along with some other organizations and people. I love Neil Ferguson, and he's at Hoover, and I've applied for a couple jobs at Hoover. So we'll see. We'll see how it all.
And God gives you, it says in the Bible, God gives you the desires of your heart, meaning he puts that desire in you. So if you're feeling it, and maybe where he's directing you, right?
You might like the most recent book we just put out.
Yeah. It's called Paradise Lost, The Machinery of Evil.
Based on Milton's Paradise Lost.
I was going to say, I do love, that was one of the books I had to first read in my graduate course. It was Paradise Lost.
Paradise Lost.
He goes through each book or each section of that poem and talks about how, talks about evil, gives you a good understanding of evil, a thorough understanding of evil.
Well, that's the thing to me, when I came back to Christianity, I'm like, this is just the best way to understand human nature. Like, you don't even have to, I mean, that was kind of Jordan Peterson's approach, right? He wasn't a Christian until recently. He just said, this is the best way to understand the human condition. He's a psychologist, and he wanted to understand the why people did things. And so he had that whole biblical series, and he loves to tell the Cain and Abel story and what that says about our desire for, awards and riches and attention. And you can look at the Bible and not even be a Christian and say, actually, this is a really good way to understand humans and human nature.
Right, exactly.
That was very instrumental. That course in the biblical studies was very instrumental in my coming back to Christ after 25 years as an atheist.
Right.
So, it was huge. In 2019, I came back, and then we got married.
Yeah.
Wow. He really has a gift for using logic to just crush bad arguments, crush them. And I love his interviews, because you see people running in circles and they're just going like this, and they can't.
Have you ever tried to talk to him? Have you ever tried to talk to him?
I haven't, no.
John has contacted him, but he's never gotten back.
Yeah.
He swims in a much bigger pond than all the rest of us.
Than both of us, yeah. But
although
that
was pretty recent for him too.
Yeah. I mean, you never know that the one thing that's, God puts you again, it was seemingly a very unfortunate circumstance that turns, I mean, if anyone can turn it around, it's him. So
since you've experienced both sides, what would you say is the best way for conservatives to speak to the other side?
I don't know if it's at this point, they seem so not willing to hear another perspective. But right. John, you touched on something, and this is what I have been saying for years, having been on the progressive side. Conservatives need to tell a better story. They need a better storyteller. They haven't been so concerned with the arts or with movies and culture because they're like, well, we're conservatives. We just want to live our life according to our God and our principles, and you all go do you.
Right.
Which would work fine until they started pushing it down our throats.
Right.
Exactly. Which we're never supposed to do with them.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. No, exactly. Oh, I wrote a piece about that, like when the Rich Men North of Richmond came out and Jason Aldean's song, and I got pushback. They're like, the problem with Jason Aldean's song is it riles up MAGA base. And I go, oh my gosh, what have you been doing? So you guys get to have Nicki Minaj telling people about WAP and that disgusting. And we're supposed to be okay with it and give her Grammys, but we get one song that hits the charts, Jason Aldean's Try That in a Small Town. And all of a sudden it's filled with hate and rage and it's just inciting the base of Trump. And I'm like, shut up. You have dominated this area for decades.
Yes.
And I know because I was a part of it. So don't,
Right.
But they do need to be better storytellers. And there are companies that are doing that now, right? Like you've got The Chosen, you've got the company that does that.
And that's what affected you, right?
That's what really that was, I call like the gateway drug to Jesus for me. Was that show because it's done so well. It's not this like cheesy, it's good storytelling.
Cheesy,
right?
Christian.
Yeah, it's not this like
there's almost no good Christian stuff out there.
Yeah, well, I think Christians have the same problem as conservatives in general.
Yeah, can't tell a good story. And we've got the best story out there.
Yeah,
exactly. It's the greatest story ever told.
Yeah.
But it needs good production value. It needs high quality sets. It needs costumes. It needs all those things. Like you can't say that this is just frivolous anymore because we are in a spiritual war. But, Daily Wire is starting to put out content. They put they have a new media company called Bent Key that is targeting youth. So as a kind of competitor to Disney, they're making their own version of Snow White. And so we're getting there. You see that Jeremy Boring was a Hollywood guy, the guy who started, I think it was Jeremy Boring, one of the guys from Daily Wire, I think it's Jeremy Boring. He was a Hollywood guy. And he said, I just heard his story about how Levin. It's the Levin guy. Jeremy Boring's part of the Daily Wire crew, but it's the other one. I can't remember his.
We are so unconnected to.
No, we know who it is.
Well, you do better than I do.
You do too. I can't.
Is it Andrew Levin? And his son works for them. You would know his work because he's written books.
I forget. I can't remember either.
Anyway, it was his story. He was in Hollywood. He was a writer and a producer, and he had some come to Jesus moment, although he's Jewish. I mean, but he said, I'm not going to sacrifice my faith for this. And he started, got to start Daily Wire. So there's people out there. You have like people like Dean Cain. You have people like Voight. You have some people in the entertainment world standing up for this, but we're getting there. We're getting there. And we just need to tell a better story.
Right.
But we're trying. We have 3 podcasts that we put out every week. So, So we do the best we can with what we've got at the little pond in which we swim. But
And that's all we can do. We can only do what God's calling us to do. And however small or big, know that it makes a difference in his eyes.
Are you familiar with the Chronicles of Narnia?
C.S. Lewis, but I know more. I know more of his actual Christian apologetic work.
Not his children's stories, right?
Yeah, I mean, I read them when I was younger, but I had no idea what they were based in. But now, I mean, one of my favorite ones is Screw Tape Letters because it just shows you how the devil works and how evil works and infiltrates the mind.
It's a good primer, that's for sure. A good primer on what he does. But we just did an episode for No Compromise about the tying of Aslan down. You remember the White Witch? She kills Aslan. She ties him down
on the stone table,
and just how much it's like the way they're trying to tie God down and trying to bring him down to man. But the thing that released Aslan were these little tiny mice. They all started crawling up all over him and started chewing. And we did an episode about how we're all little mice. We're just doing our own little part in our own little spot to untie God and let him free.
I was a little disheartened to see what's happening in the Catholic Church. They're really trying to bring God down to the culture instead of elevating the culture to God.
Exactly.
And
that's what it seems like is going on all over the place.
This Pope was a disaster.
Yeah. We're trying to conform God to the world and
compromising.
Yeah,
essentially, we're compromising the faith away, which really is the reason why our story isn't compelling.
Yeah,
we have to present it as an adventure, and an adventure has danger. It has boundaries. It's got reality that you're confronting,
and that's what we said in that episode. After Aslan's released and he rises up again, he takes the girls on this wild journey. He puts them on his back, and he just like jumping over things and going crazy. And they're terrified one moment, and the next moment they're enjoying it. And that's what we're missing.
Yeah. Well, and what's so interesting is it's a wild ride, but I have to tell you, I'm more pleasant with myself. I'm more pleasant around other people with Christ in my life. I'm just not so angry. Of course you face challenges. Of course hard things come. I'm having one of the hardest years of my life, but it's not, I'm not sitting in a puddle of tears anymore. I'm not constantly depressed. I'm not angsty. I'm not, I don't know. It's just
you've been released.
Yeah, I'm free. I'm happy. I'm actually happy. Even though every day's not like bluebirds outside my window. Of course I get sad, but just overall, I'm a more pleasant, I have a sense of humor again, for crying out loud. I'm not so offended by everything. I mean, all of these things you hear about the left, it's true. Everything is an offense.
Right.
Because your entire identity is wrapped up in what you believe to be true.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
And those are usually false ideas.
Yeah, exactly. So we were going to ask you what you're doing now with your life. So I guess this point you don't know.
I don't really know. I'm just along for the ride. I mean, like I said, I'm in the process of hopefully switching writing jobs.
And there was you just moved where you moved because your family was there. It wasn't because of...
be closer to family, to get out of LA. I needed a break from California. It'd been 20 years. As you know, the politics are sketchy at best.
The leaves are pretty right now.
Yeah,
at least it's fall, and we'll see how I feel in about 3 weeks from now.
And how did your family, what did they think about your faith? And because you said they were not real religious people.
I mean, they're happy for me because I seem better off.
Yeah.
I'm in a better place. I feel more self-assured. I'm not constantly angsty with them. I'm not taking out my psychology or whatever bad place I was in on them and blaming them. I don't blame my parents for things like I used to. It's your fault. You didn't raise me like that.
Right.
I was very whiny and I was very progressive. I was very much, blaming everybody else but myself.
Yeah. Oh, well, that's good. I'm glad that you've had the chance to get back with them and make things better. So where can people find you? You're in a lot of different places.
Who knows? That's a good question.
You put Jennifer Galardi and you'll get all your workout videos over here. You get articles over here.
Where do you want people to go?
You have nutrition stuff too.
I still, my website, it's like, do I leave this up? Do I not? It's still a lot of my old stuff. I need to update that because I'm still in transition and in flux. It's hard to define what my website's going to look like. So I'm like, I need new headshots. I need new pictures. I need all of it.
Jenny's a photographer. So we have Wise Photography. Yeah, that's kind of how we're supporting ourselves between that and my teaching. So.
Oh, well, great. Maybe I'll have to come to you and do a little photo shoot.
So you had 2 years that you've been, your turnaround happened about 2 years ago, right?
Yeah, the whole
2021, you would say.
2020 started, but like I said, I came back to Christ in 2021. So I'd say about 3 years. It's been a work in progress. I went back to school in 2021. I just graduated in April.
Right. So now it's been like 6 months of just kind of been.
Yeah, working, but trying to find the right home for me, the right job. I mean, I am kind of this, people really don't know what to do with me because I don't have
like a specialty.
And I haven't been in the swamp. I have a master's in public policy, but I haven't spent time in DC. I haven't been in Congress. So I do have like the media skills. I have a lot of the production. I'm a good storyteller. I'm a writer. So we're just trying to figure out I'm trying to figure out, or I think other people are trying to figure out what to do with me, where to put me.
Yeah.
in the meantime, I just keep writing. Like I said, a lot of my work is on the website 1945. So it's 19 and then you spell out 45.com.
And we'll have a link in the description.
Yeah, we'll put a link in the description.
Yeah, you can go to my works, and those are ripped off fast and furious. I can't say it's my deepest work, but some of them I do try to be a little bit more than tabloid fodder. I do try to provide some insight, or I don't know, just some why to it. Okay, why am I taking this position? Why do I feel this way?
Right.
While also just commenting on, daily politics and what's happening. Where else? I mean, my podcast.
You have your website.
I have my website, but again, that's a lot of my old stuff. If anybody wants to find out stuff, I mean, I still believe, again, in a lot of the holistic health practices. I mean,
that's on your website, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. And your podcast is on the website too, right?
My podcast is on the website, and it's interesting to listen and to see how the guests have changed. So that's interesting. And
it's like the evolution. I mean, you have stuff written from way, way back too. I mean, when you were really down, I've seen some of your old stuff. And the progression is just amazing.
Well, I leave it up there. Eventually, I'll probably take that down. I mean, I'm not ashamed of it, but at the same time, I leave it up as a reminder to myself of like how broken I was, how much I needed Christ, how much I couldn't do this on my own. Like it just, it's too much to expect man to overcome on his own, and to think that you are the source of your own happiness and that you can rely upon your own fallen, frail human condition to get you out of it. You're the one that got you in it. Like, it's going to be hard to get you out of it. So I do keep those things up as a reminder. And people have, criticized me for what I've said in the past, but that's very much a left thing. Like, well, 20 years ago, you said this. I'm like, guess what? Changed my mind.
It's good. It's good for people to see it.
Yeah. It's a woman's prerogative.
Yeah,
that's right.
And so one other thing was about Christianity. Were you involved in like the evangelical world at all, or just did you go right to the Orthodox?
No, I was, for the first year, I was going to kind of this non-denominational, they sing, the band is up there. And what I realized, it's like, okay. And this gentleman, Galardi, talks a lot about this in his book, is like, oh, I'm having an experience. I'm having an emotional, I was still crying a lot every time I went to church. And I'm like, and what I realized, I'm like, this is no different than kind of my other faiths or my other spiritual practices. It's like, it's all about the emotion of it. And I do have a problem with like, well, if God is the truth, why are there so many different interpretations of the truth? And how can this church say this thing, but this student does this thing? And I'm like, and then I see the pride flag being hung outside a church. And I'm like, well, what does that have to do with God? And we're all accepting. I'm like, okay, we are accepting, but what about the truth? I think ultimately that's what drives me. It's like, I don't care if you call me a liberal. I don't care if you call me a conservative. I don't care about the labels. I just want the truth. It's like A Few Good Men. You can't handle the truth. I can handle the truth. I know I can. So
in fact, that's what we want. Desperately.
And
because truth and beauty are one.
Yes. And so I just think that Orthodox faith brought me closer to that. And for me, it's just more of a solid foundation. And I didn't, even that first year when I was kind of back in church and going to this kind of Reformed church, I remember going to a talk on Pepperdine's campus about somebody who had written a book. And I'm like, this is as much drama as Hollywood. Like, this is no different than the spiritual scandals in yoga, right? Where all of them are having sex with I'm like, this is too much. And I get it. I know there's drama wherever there's men, there's going to be drama, right? Not men.
Human.
Yeah, human.
I know what you're saying.
Yeah. Mankind, wherever there's mankind, you're going to have issues. But it just seemed like, I'm like, I don't know. And I had no idea. I remember going to this talk and they're talking about these characters and these people and these leaders in the church. I'm like, I don't know who any of these people are. I don't want to know them. I just came from a world full of scandal. John Friend and Anusara Yoga, and my teacher had an affair, and Bikram, and I just came from that world. I don't care to know who any of these personalities are. I just want Christ in my life.
Right. And you want to come out of the world, and it's kind of the Orthodox is giving you a sacredness. A quietness
and a foundation and a ritual, and just the same. The liturgy is going to be the same on January 9th of 2022 as it is on January 9th of 2023.
Right.
And to me, it is the closest thing to the truth that I've been able to find. So yeah, I don't care for the personalities of it. I don't care for the politics of it. And I appreciate that some churches are speaking up against the adoption of culture, the adoption, how the church is adopting the culture rather than vice versa. So I do appreciate their role in that, and they have a part, but I can't, it's just not me.
Right.
So I'm fighting it, and I'm fighting the battle in another realm. That's, you all do that.
So are you saying you want the church to be someplace you can go for respite and not to be involved in all of this political stuff? Yeah, I mean,
and I appreciate that some churches are.
Yeah.
Like I
understand what you're saying.
Yeah, I went to Godspeak, which is the church that's kind of famous in California for not shutting down during COVID and being very political. And I understand why they feel they have the pastor of Godspeak, Charlie Kirk, kind of adopted him as his pastor. So I get that. And I'm glad that they are the warriors that they are, right? I don't always agree with them, and that's fine. But just for me, it's about communion. It's about the Eucharist. It's about bringing more of Jesus into my life. Yeah, I just really love my church back in California. I'm missing it dearly. I just was texting with my priest, and I didn't think it would have such a withdrawal, but I am.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Aww.
All right. We see it.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's evident in your face.
Yeah.
What's evident is the love of God, the desire for the closeness. It's clear. Yeah. It's very sweet.
Yeah.
Thank you. I get a little teary-eyed when I...
No, I understand. I get it. I completely get it.
We are deeply appreciative that you came on with us.
Yeah.
And it was nice getting to know you. If you ever need anything that we can help you with, let us know.
Because we're like 2 hours.
Yeah, we're pretty close, actually.
Yeah. 3 hours away. So
yeah, I know.
So if you need anything,
So take a look at Christian Atheist. We have
I will.
Things going on, because Jenny and I have the No Compromise, which is the one we do together, and we have all kinds of things on there. Right now, we're sort of going through G.K. Chesterton's Everlasting Man. So
I have that. That's on my bedside. It's one of the ones I'm trying to. He's harder to read than C.S. Lewis for me. He's a little more.
He's deep. He's complex, deep. Lewis is better at translating things into a speech that is more simplistic. Chesterton likes to play at the deeper images that God presents, and they draw you in. And I've read the entire thing on my Simple Gifts podcast. So if you want to listen to it, it's there.
Yeah. My professor once said sometimes I listen to Chesterton because sit down and read him just takes too much.
Yeah.
And at least if you're listening, even if you're not completely comprehending, you're just kind of soaking it in. Whereas I sit down and read, and it just, particularly when I was in school, it just took too much brain power to get through Chesterton.
Yeah, I listen to it when I'm taking a shower at night. And
there you go. That's
over and over and over again. I've come to understand an awful lot more of what's going on in that book by the repeated listening than I ever did with the reading.
Interesting.
So, I find it very valuable. It's an incredible book. Lewis says in Surprised by Joy that it was the first book that allowed him to see Christianity as a rational alternative to the worldview in which he was currently living. So he said that's kind of one of the major turning points in his own life.
Yeah. They're both good. They're all good.
All right. Anything else?
I've exhausted myself.
Me too.
Yeah. So thank you so much.
Yeah, thank you.
Such a pleasure. Thank you for having me, and we'll hopefully get to do it again.
That would be fun.
Yep. And we'll send you some links and stuff.
I am a Christian with the searching and skeptical mind of an atheist. I don't want to believe anything that isn't true. I know both sides of the looking glass, and I know them with open eyes. I choose Christ's side. I invite you to join me from wherever you stand before the looking glass. That's this week's episode. Thanks for listening. And remember, you can have your religious cake and eat it too. You can have reason, respect for science, a 21st century worldview, and be a Christian.